Josh Young of the Rangers. The reason why this market is topical and newsworthy today, Josh Young of the Rangers fractured his finger. I don't know if it was his thumb or not, I forget, but one of the fingers on his hand yesterday in a game. And the immediate prognosis was like out thumb, Jake writes, thanks. So like 4 to 6 weeks was the early diagnosis. Might be more than that. The idea is, I mean, literally, if it's like, if he's Wolverine and this heals as fast as humanly possible, he still can't win probably because it's going to give an opportunity for Gunnar Henderson to just gain way too much ground. And Gunnar Henderson was already ahead anyway. So big injury that had immediate big applications in an award market happened yesterday. And the way the market was shaped prior to the injury was that essentially this was viewed by the market as a 3-player race between Gunnar Henderson, Josh Young, and Masataka Yoshida of the Red Sox. And you and I did enough shows this summer, Jeremy, that, you know, kind of like I had a really strong opinion all the time that I felt like I knew why Yoshida was priced like this. And I totally disagreed and thought he had like 0% chance to win. And I loved the other two versus him and thought it would likely be a race between those two players. That has not changed. But now you're removing one of the players from consideration. Like Josh Young basically can't win now. And okay, if I'm going to kick him out, I was on a text chain with a couple people right around the time Lucas Glover was walking up 18 at the Wyndham Championship. And it was, okay, the market's closed. So Young gets hit on the thumb. It takes a little bit for the markets to close because baseball they're not as locked into, but markets close pretty fast. And the question's going to be, when the market reopens, what is the difference in the market between Gunnar Henderson and Masataka Yoshida? What do we think it's going to be? And what would we bet? And what would we like to bet? And the consensus opinion was that Yoshida would be given a lot of credit still because he had been given a lot of credit before Young got hurt. And why would that change? Yoshida's taken a ton of money at books. We get emails from MGM. He's still their biggest liability, which is insane to me. But like has the most bets on him. And okay, if that's true, then he can't be high priced. But like, how crazy do we think this is going to be? And my guess was I thought Gunnar was going to be like minus 150 or minus 175. That was going to be my guess. And then somebody said, well, what would you play him to? And I said, if you're telling me Josh Young's out for the rest of the season, I think Gunnar Henderson should be about minus 300 or minus 400. I think that's like the territory that we're talking about. And I'll explain why in a second. And so the market opens at one domestic was brave enough to open first. And the one that takes a little better limits too, which is great. And they opened Gunnar at even money. I viewed this as like an opportunity is, I guess, the wrong word. Like, I know it takes a long time to get paid. I think that was like one of the most criminal mispricing of even a small market, even a market you can't bet a lot of money into. I mean, like outrageous, really outrageous. And so basically just like tried to bet as much money as humanly possible for a night into it until the other places opened and got it all the way to 210, I think. And then everybody else opens like around 200, and that's where we are right now. So just like a little bit of a story about last night. I'll just give you my opinion, Jeremy. You can tell me if you agree. Jake, you can tell me if you agree. The way that this award is typically decided is it is a war counting competition, and it is not remotely close between Gunnar Henderson and now any other viable candidate. And there are, 50-ish games left, 49, 51, depending on the team that you root for. That may not be enough time for this to even get close. So we're getting pretty close to door shut on this. I'd say 15 to 20 more games. And if you're going to deal me like a short price or not a short price, but like an even money or a minus one something on the guy who's that far ahead, which is Gunnar Henderson, then I'm going to take it and say thanks. And that's how I feel about the market right now.
Well, and let me just say this, and I'll let Jake run with it, because the other thing when I just look at the different players that are up here as far as the top of the AL Rookie of the Year, Gunnar's going to play every day. I know Cassis is going to play, but he gets pinch hit for all the time. He'll get some days off here and there. When you look at guys like Yoshida, he gets days off as well. And I've been screaming about Gunnar
DHs a lot too. Yeah. Which is why he doesn't accumulate WAR very fast. For people who are curious about why that happens, by the way, like how is Gunnar so far ahead of Yoshida in WAR when Yoshida bats 300? It's because Yoshida DHs all the time. So he makes no defensive. And by the way, he plays left field in the game, but he's not particularly good at it. So he makes no defensive contribution, and Gunnar does. And that's one of the reasons why this is happening.
I think that's something that we don't take in consideration a lot of times when we look at some of and I say imports, but the guys that are coming in from other countries, that depending on their league style, do they play every day? Are they this tough of a schedule going on the road? There's a lot of things that factor into it. And I think when you look at some of the schedule, scheduling that goes on not only in Japanese baseball, the KBO, and some other things, that can have an impact on some of the guys coming in for Rookie of the Year. But again, with Gunnar, the power's there, the defense is there. I've been screaming about how I think this guy's a generational talent, and the sad part is Jackson Holiday might be better. But yeah, I think he's a shoo-in to win the award for all the reasons that you gave, and I'll let Jake run with this too because I know it's his baby boy.
I give Jake all the credit in the world for this because I have prices on Gunnar that are really good. And Jake, I think you have the best. I actually think you have like the best price, like the absolute bottom on Gunnar Henderson. I think you bought. So like, what was it? And then obviously, like, what do you think of the market right now?
So this was the end of May, and I had been looking at it, and me and Ken were all over. We wanted to try and beat Yoshida. Didn't think it was right that he was the favorite, and now we're seeing the fruits of that. Obviously, it was 35-1. And I said to Ken that day, I was like, outrageous. I think we're really close to the buy point on Gunnar Henderson. And Young was at 20. On that same day, Young was 20 too. And I went in on both of them. I said to Ken and a couple of, I said, I think we are at or really close to the buy point on both of these guys because there is no way this is what it's going to look like 2-3 months from now. And now here we are. Yeah, I mean, that's my large adult son. And he's my most handsome large adult son. He's awesome. He's like, he says it himself, like we're finally seeing the Gunnar Henderson with swag and like confidence that we saw at the end of last year that made him the favorite for the award coming to the season. Now he's out here telling reporters like, oh yeah, I got another gear. We're about to kick it up a notch too. Like that's insane. Like this guy is nuts. And so just to like tie a bow on it, we talk about on this show, the hit by bus factor, which started with Julio Rodriguez. Then for a little bit was Corbin Carroll but now, like, okay, it might be the Gunnar Henderson hit by bus factor. Like,
hit by butt.
If he is hit by a bus,
hit by a butt, yeah, be crazy.
That'd be tough. But like, if Gunnar Henderson is unfortunately hit by a bus, it's not going to be Yoshida. I think Hunter Brown's probably the next best candidate. Jeremy, you brought up Cassis, and I get why he's been unbelievable, but I think it would be Edward Julian in Minnesota. He has had an OPS of almost 1,000 for a month now. He's been unbelievable, and nobody knows who he is because he plays in Minnesota, and oh boy, does that team stink, and there's no reason to watch them or any team in the AL Central when teams in the AL Central aren't fist-fighting each other, but that would be the one for me if Henderson is unfortunately hit by a bus or abducted by aliens or whatever you want to call it, but I agree with you guys. Like, this is
too. Aliens is a good one, too. That's a good, like, Julio, instead of the Julio Rodriguez hit by a bus, it's the Gunnar Henderson abducted by aliens theory. That's actually like pretty good too. What do we do all the time on this show, Jeremy? We talk about awards. We talk about multi-way markets. You always answer a really simple question. Does this market have a vulnerable favorite? Right. Yeah. That's always like a key entry point to betting an award market. If I look, it doesn't matter if the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth guy are in the total wrong order and they're all 10,000-1. If the favorite is like Shohei Ohtani to win AL MVP, why would I spend any time figuring out who the least vulnerable favorite, so impervious? What's the opposite of vulnerable? So invulnerable that they took it off the board, that you can't even bet it anymore. And so, okay, division bets. Let's apply that same philosophy and let's see if we feel like one of the favorites is vulnerable. You do this in baseball too. That's why I have so much stupid money on the Chicago Cubs to win the NL Central, because I just thought the Brewers were really vulnerable and I wanted to take shots at them. Okay, if you do some of the NFL divisions, like, do I think, the Eagles are vulnerable to win the NFC East? Obviously price dependent. If you got 500-1 on the Cowboys, you'd bet it. But like, people know what I mean. Okay, like I don't want to try to beat the Eagles to win the division this year. I don't want to try to beat the Chiefs to win the division this year. The AFC North is kind of weird because everybody's good. So I don't want to try to beat the Jags to win the AFC South. I hate the other teams, and I don't see upside in any of them. The NFC North, I'd push people into traffic to take shots at the Detroit Lions to lose the division and try to bet other teams. And I said this the other day, like, you could make a really compelling case for all four teams, including Detroit, to win the division. And so it's kind of like, well, when you do your handicapping process, what do you favor? And therefore, like, what do you like? And the price is going to be a big part of that. And the price on Green Bay is consensus like plus 350 right now. And I have to beat Detroit, who's very hyped, and their offense was excellent last year. Also, they strike me more as like slightly better than league average, and the market kind of has them rated in that range, but I don't know if they have like the amazing 12-13 win upside that so many of these other favorites do. Their quarterback is Jared Goff and their coach is Dan Campbell, and so I know people probably have a good impression of those two guys, but would you rather fade that pair or Mahomes Reed, or something like that? In the circle that we run in, like people that we have on the show, friends of mine, other people who do gambling content, whatever, like that's not the public or not like a consensus opinion. That's actually like a small group of people. It's just we all do the same thing and it's like an echo chamber. We all hear each other say stuff. All of that circle loves the Packers, loves them, like loves the win total over. Like, I mean, we were talking about this in February. We might have been the first. I don't really know. Doesn't really matter. We're all on the same thing. So Packers to go over, Packers to win the division, Packers in this game. I mean, if we like them to go over the win total, we're not going to like them as a dog against Justin Fields. It's the same thing. But that's funny. So it's like that circle, we all like the same thing. So it's kind of like gives me the impression that the Packers are like not contrarian, that actually everybody likes the Packers. But then you like go outside of that small circle and you read everything about like what people are just betting on in the NFL this year and what more mainstream shows are saying and what NFL reporters are saying when they go on television or whatever. And all of that is like, Justin Fields is going to win most valuable player. Like it's the exact diametric opposite of what like our betting circle likes. So it's almost like in my head, I just go, what is public in this game? Like, is it the side that everyone I talk to likes, or is it I expand out from there? And it's not that knowing what's public matters. I just think it's a really funny question because like if I texted anyone in my phone right now, they'd say they like the Packers. And if I'd like read any story about what everybody else is betting, it would say like the biggest liability is the Bears or like Justin Fields is the biggest liability to win MVP, kind of like Trubisky was a few years ago. And it doesn't have to go that way, by the way. Fields could just win. He could just be awesome. But it's just really funny. Like, I don't know if you ever have those experiences, Jeremy, where you're like, wait, like, does everybody like the same thing? Or is it just like the people that I know all like the same thing? And so it's like, now it's like messes with my head a little bit and I can't figure out what's going on.
Yeah, it messes with me too. I do not want the consensus report from this show.
You like to be contrarian. That's the other thing.
I do.
Do you think the Packers are contrarian in this game as someone who likes contrarian things?
100%. I think what you're hearing in small volumes are sharp people that come on this show and are looking at the right things, because inherently when you look at the Packers, look at their division. The other three teams all have questionable defenses. The Packers are going to be able to run the football on all three teams.
You bad defense. I don't even think it's questionable. I think it's just going to be bad. Like the Lions were almost dead last year. That's going to get a lot better. The Vikings isn't going to get better. I don't think the Bears is going to improve a little bit. They have a defensive head coach too, but like they're not going to be 8th or something or 5th. They'll probably just move up into the teens, like low teens or something like that.
I think the Packers are. I think they're the sharp side of this, to be honest, and I think everybody's going to be down on them because Aaron Rodgers left, and they're gonna remember that Jordan Love game and going, oh my God, this is the guy, and not even look at all the other stuff that is inherently important. How about the defense? How about the running game? How about coaching? How about all these things that factor in? I do think it's important.
It might be possible we have the Patriots wrong. Like if you're trying to make a list of teams we might have wrong right now. Okay, how is the team currently being rated in this market? And how might they be rated at the end of the season? It seems unlikely to me that the Patriots are going to be rated worse than they're currently being rated in the market, right? Very low win total, last in the division. Like now they can just play to that. They can play to that level, in which case this number is right and the win total is going to be about right, and they're just going to be bad and they're going to win 7 or 8 games and the win total is 7.5. But like, what is more likely, that they play to a rating worse than this, or that they play to a rating commensurate with, God, even 2 years ago? Like when they won, 10, 11 games, go to the playoffs, lose to the Bills, max rookie year. Okay, like, isn't that a little more likely than they play like a 5-win team? Like, I feel like, that's one of the reasons when I think about this point spread market, I just go, cool. Like, I don't know if the Eagles are going to be a step backward, 2 new coordinators, lost some defensive starters. They could be worse. But to me, it's more like the Patriots are being rated like garbage. And maybe they're garbage, but it seems more likely they're at least okay and not like even stinkier garbage. That would probably be like the right way I could explain it.
Yeah, and I think that's a very very good possibility too. And if everybody hasn't just soured on Belichick, giving him a bunch of time to get ready for a game, I've always felt he's kind of like that Nick Saban. You give him more time to prep, he's probably going to find some holes in your game too if you're looking at it from that standpoint. But I like that.